Welcome to Combat Recap. In today's video, we'll look at the strangest knockouts in MMA history. Let's get to it. It's one thing for a fighter to get knocked out by an opponent, but when a fight ends due to unforeseen circumstances, that's when things can get scary. You've got to admit, you've been that guy. When a fighter gets hit with something that looks incredibly painful, you've probably thought to yourself, oh, I can never take a punch or kick like that, or how is that fighter still standing after that? Well, the answer's simple. The fighter may have no idea what hit them at times, which explains their unusual reaction. For this video, we've compiled a list of MMA fighters who were knocked out so hard that they were dazed and did some pretty strange things. Number 10. Gabriel Gonzaga vs. Mirko, UFC 70, 2007. In professional wrestling, competitors are defined by their moves, and each has a finisher that they consistently rely upon to put an opponent away. MMA is quite different, as most high-end talents are capable of ending a bout in several different ways, but it's not uncommon for a fighter to have a signature technique that carries them to victory. In both sports, however, those techniques can be turned against them. In the same way that Seth Rollins received a major ovation for nailing John Cena with the attitude adjustment during their 2015 feud, Gabriel Gonzaga's career hit new heights when he leveled Mirko with a savage head kick in their UFC 70 matchup. While Gonzaga wasn't a showcase opponent for Krokop, given his 5-fight winning streak, he was supposed to be a manageable foe for Pride's 2006 Openweight Grand Prix champion. The dynamic changed, however, when Gonzaga took Krokop down and pounded him for an extended time. The favorite was no longer comfortable, and that opened the door for Gonzaga to let go and throw a massive head kick. It landed flush, collapsing the Croat where he stood. The surprise of a grappling specialist knocking the most feared striker of his era out cold alone would have made this an unforgettable fight. What makes this one stick out even further, and what makes this bout even more memorable, was the sight of Krokop's leg twisting underneath him as he fell to the canvas. Number 9. Derek Memem vs. Rory's Gracie, World Series of Fighting 5, 2013. There's nothing funny about somebody absolutely getting concussed during an MMA fight, but there's kind of something funny about a professional fighter all of a sudden seeming more interested in walking to the corner and taking a nap.
You gotta time that if you're pulling your hair back, you're eating a jab at the same time.
The World Series of Fighting 5 bout between Derek Memem and Rory's Gracie showcased some major punching power as Derek knocked Gracie out cold with 2 minutes and 20 seconds remaining in the second round. Number 8. Will Brooks vs. Michael Chandler, Bellator 131, 2014. Former bantamweight lightweight champion Michael Chandler promised a rematch with Will Brooks at Bellator 131, but this wasn't going to be decided by the judges like their first fight. After Brooks landed a bomb with his right hand, Chandler dropped, landing on his head. Michael Chandler was in such a state of confusion that he looked like he had no clue where he was. While he was trying to wave off the fight, somehow the ref let it keep going. Number 7. James Vake vs. Michael McDaniel, XFC 28, 2016. McDaniel went on the attack and appeared to have the upper hand. However, once his opponent, James Vake, turned to use his feet to shield himself, McDaniel let his opponent get up, and that's when things took a scary turn. After the fighters regrouped and got ready to go at it again, McDaniel's body gave out, causing him to go down. According to XFC TV, it was possibly a response to the deep choke he was in. It was a big burst of energy after escaping the armbar, as well as getting up too quickly. Number 6. Dan Henderson vs. Michael Bisping, UFC 100, 2009. Dan Henderson's right hand was once the MMA equivalent of an Aroldis Chapman fastball. It was a powerful man putting every fiber of his being into one motion that became an explosion from the right hand. In slow motion, one can see the similarities between the H-bomb and a baseball pitch. The left leg steps forward. The hips pivot to generate power. The torso rotates slightly to add to the arm's motion, and then it rips. Of course, the key difference between them is that one is specifically designed to hit another person, and the other isn't. That's something Michael Bisping knows all too well. At UFC 100, the Brit was unfortunate enough to eat what was likely the hardest punch of Henderson's entire career in the second round of their Ultimate Fighter Season 9 coaches bout.
And he's looking to load up, Joe.
Bisping was clearly out cold as soon as it landed, but Hendo took it a step further by hammering him with a flying elbow as he lay unconscious on the ground. While the count had rubbed many fans the wrong way over the years, it was impossible not to worry about him struggling for breath on the canvas. Henderson was unfazed though, and literally added insult to injury by jeering him over the elbow in the post-fight presser. Had anyone else bragged about an extracurricular shot of that magnitude, it could have gone down as career suicide. For a popular figure like Henderson though, it was just another chapter in his legacy. Number 5. Kai Kara-France vs. Rogério Bontorin, UFC 259, 2021. The Kiwi ultimately got back to his feet after hand-fighting and maintaining his calm. He then detected the shift in the battle and sprayed it with a powerful right hook. With just 5 seconds remaining in the first round, Kara-France followed up a massive uppercut with a dropkick that left Rogério Bontorin face-planting briefly before France wheeled away in triumph. During his victory lap, Kara-France made another ground attack attempt, but referee Herb Dean eventually stopped the fight. Number 4. Rasul Katev vs. Leimonis Stasinkis, FNF 8, 2015. This knockout is definitely guilty of being one of the more terrifying ones, since as soon as the crushing blow landed on Leimonis' face, the event that occurred afterward would stir the most confusion. In his bout against Rasul Katev, he would get hit with a swift left hook that would instantly cause his legs to bend in an ugly angle, followed by a Superman punch from heaven, which would be a pretty big douche move. After Leimonis' body started freaking out, the light technicians decided it would be a good idea to start flashing lights to indicate when the fight was over. Number 3. Robbie Lawler vs. Rory McDonald, UFC 189, 2015. MMA is an entertaining sport, but it's sometimes easy to forget that the competitors pay an exorbitant toll on their bodies every time they step into the cage. Not all the time, though. In some cases, the wear is impossible to overlook, and the bout ends because one of them simply can't take anymore. Well, it's hard not to feel a little guilty for watching. That was the case with Robbie Lawler's title defense against Rory McDonald at UFC 189. For 4 agonizing rounds, the two welterweights punched pieces off one another to the point where they were unrecognizable. The fight wore on until, in the middle of the 5th round, a right cross from Lawler landed hard on McDonald's nose. The Canadian had absorbed harder shots earlier in the fight and had eaten much worse in previous contests. But that was the last punch he could take, and McDonald simply fell back, weary and battered, to the point where he couldn't even sit without assistance. While most people's memories of this one are of the heated exchanges and downright fiery mid-fight stare-down, the one that lingers most with this writer is the sight of McDonald squirming on the ground. Number 2. Edson Barbosa vs. Shane Burgos, UFC 262, 2021. Edson Barbosa put on a dominant performance to knock out Shane Burgos in their featherweight bout after never seen before a delayed finish.
Right hand by Barbosa.
After a grueling battle in the 3rd round, Barbosa hit Burgos with 2 swift straight punches. Burgos looked fine, but backed up before he was suddenly sent crashing toward the floor. A few seconds later, Barbosa jumped on the opportunity like a kid at Christmas on a gift before the fight was stopped by TKO. Fans were equally stunned and scared at the bizarre TKO finish. Number 1. Jason Valle vs. Luke Nayland, National Fighting Championship 81, 2016. This is one of the scarier reactions to a knockout. Sometimes fighters will attack the referee after they slip back into consciousness after being choked down. Luke did, well, actually we have no idea what was going on in Luke's head. After being choked out by an inverse triangle at NFC 81 by Jason Valle, referee Big John McCarthy stepped in to check on Luke. You can clearly tell that Luke was out. It seems as though he was practicing evading defensively, probably thinking Big John was his opponent, and trying to dodge punches he thought McCarthy would throw. And that right there concludes this video. If you enjoyed this video, let us know how we did in the comment section down below. Be sure to subscribe to Combat Recaps and hit the notification bell to be notified of future videos. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in our next video.